If you're ready to harness the power of your communications data, blast off with Nylas today.
Hello, Ram. How are you?
I'm doing good, Blag. How are you?
I'm doing fine. How is the snow back there in Toronto?
It's I think I had a snowman emoji up yesterday, and I think it's more of a slush man emoji. So we've been getting a mix of weather. I'm just looking forward to just having snow, one type of precipitation
Oh yeah,
at a
here in
time.
Toronto it's only snow, and it's
Oh
been
yeah,
snowing since I don't know 3 a.m. something like that.
okay,
Non-stop. So
nice.
what do you have for today?
Today we're going to talk about building out functionality in your application, and this functionality is going to be calendar sync.
Oh, that's cool.
So we've talked about this on our blog, at least from some of our few blogs. We've talked about this, and I'll just put that up there, nylas.com /blog. And let's first talk about what calendar sync is, and take a look at a demo for calendar sync first before we dive into the code. I think sometimes show is probably better. So we'll do a bit of show and tell. Hopefully the demo works. So it's a work in progress, but I'm excited to show what we have so far.
Cool.
And we're also going to kind of do an overview of all the different tools that we use to build this, which is really exciting because there are a lot of tools out there that we want to highlight that we've used to build this.
Yeah, it's always nice when we can integrate different tools and make something nice.
Yeah, so let me share my screen and we can jump in maybe in a minute, but maybe let's talk about calendar sync. What is calendar sync? So I mentioned it a few times, and the idea here is that in some scenarios, you want to be able to bring in multiple calendars and view them in one place. So you can do this if you have Google Calendars. You may have multiple calendars in one place, and you can see all your different calendars, such as your holidays, your events, or your personal items. However, if you want to bring in other calendar sources, such as Outlook or Yahoo, you're going to need to integrate with all those calendar providers. And you can do that seamlessly using Nylas, because Nylas is your communication layer, and you can build your integration with Nylas and connect Nylas to all those different providers.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
Yeah, my voice is going a bit. I know we were talking about this earlier on before we hopped on, so it may go a bit, but I'll try my best. But yeah, the idea is that you can integrate with Nylas and connect to these different providers. And we're going to take a look at a demo of what that looks like, of connecting to different providers to show different calendar events from either Google or Outlook. So let's jump in. So let me share my screen and let's go full screen. And the first thing I just wanted to highlight is we have some really good blog posts on what calendar sync is. So this is more of a non-technical post, but it goes into all the different details about what calendar sync is, how you can use it in your application, and what are the benefits of using or building calendar sync. So feel free to take a look at our blog to check that out. So that's at nylas.com /blog. You can take a look at that there. And what I want to do is just walk through a demo. So let's just jump in and take a look at a demo of what calendar sync is. So I built out this demo. It's a bit work in progress, but I think we have most of the working pieces here that we can walk through. And the idea is first you would go in and put in your email, and then you'd connect your account. And once you do that, you would start seeing calendar events show up in the calendar below.
That's pretty cool.
So let's go ahead and start connecting a few accounts. So first I'm going to connect my Nylas account. And I think I've already logged into Nylas on the browser, so it should be able to walk me through that flow very quickly. Mm-hmm. And one thing I want to highlight is this authentication flow is Nylas hosted authentication. So this is already built in for you, and you can just integrate with Nylas's authentication flow right away to start authenticating and connecting your users. So let's go ahead and do that. And what's going to happen in the background is as we do that, if everything works, all the calendar events will show up inside of our application. So now we've returned to our application, we've connected the user, and we've synced the user, and we can start seeing some calendar events showing up here.
Yeah, I can see them there. That's cool.
Yeah, so this is the idea of a calendar sync is you're able to connect multiple different providers or sync across multiple different calendars. So let's just connect one more account just to see the flow all the way through. So the next account that we're going to connect here is going to be Outlook account. So I'm just picking up the email. So it's going to be an Outlook email. And it's going to be relaxedtomato@outlook.com. So let's connect that account. And again, this is the Nylas hosted authentication flow. So this is all built for you using Nylas. You don't have to build any UI to authenticate your users when you're building with Nylas. And we're going to go through the login flow. And as soon as the user logs in, we're going to grab all their calendar events, and all the calendar events are going to be synced for us using this UI. I think this UI is React Big Calendar. So we're using a React component to display all the different calendar accounts.
Yeah, that's nice. I am making that by hand. That'd be pretty difficult.
Yeah, calendar UIs are quite useful, and there are quite a few of them available online, especially in the React world and other frameworks.
Mm-hmm.
And just to walk through a few other places that I want to highlight is we're actually deploying everything on Vercel. So we're using Vercel to deploy everything. So this is the tool that we're using to deploy both the front end and back end. And we're going to take a look at this code very shortly. And as well, we're using Supabase. And what Supabase has is it's storing all the different calendar events.
Mm-hmm.
For now, for the most part, I've just anonymized the event title. So you're just going to see event as the name for now. And if I refresh, it'll show you all the other calendar events that it retrieved when I connected both accounts.
Oh, that's nice. So every time you connect an account, it's going to go into Supabase, right?
Yeah. So there are a few ways of doing this, and this is one approach. But for now, I'm just persisting all your events looking forward for at least the next 7 days to show on the calendar.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, so now that we've kind of gotten an idea of what the UI looks like and just the different pieces, let's take a look at the code starting from the front end so we can kind of walk through the flow of what's happening.
Perfect.
So we have two pieces here. Let's first take a look at the front end. And I'm just going to, for now, I'm just going to focus on the authentication part.
Can you make it a little bigger?
Yeah, totally. Oh, that's very small. Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's all right.
I just realized that. Okay. So let's take a look from top down. And so we have a few imports here. We're using React, so our front end is based out of React. And as well, we're using a design component library, and this is built by Vercel. So it's their Geist UI. And as well, we're also using, like I mentioned, React Big Calendar. So this is something that we're using to actually create our UI of the calendar. So all the events are going to go through here. And we're also using Luxon. So Luxon is a JavaScript date library. And it's something we've covered in a previous video, all the modern JavaScript libraries for using and working with dates.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that one.
And as well, we're connecting to Supabase. So here we have all the Supabase client functionality that we need. And I'm just going to scroll down because we have a lot of code here related to date and time setup for the calendar. But I just want to focus on the flow of setting up the hosted authentication. So what that looks like. So if we scroll down to the UI, here we have our input on line 61. Right. And this is going to take your input and we have a button. So as soon as the user clicks on the button, it will start the authentication flow, the hosted authentication flow. And what's that doing is it's taking the email, it's taking your Nylas client ID, and then it's also taking a redirect URI. So the Nylas client ID you will get when you actually create a Nylas application, so that will be given to you. And the redirect URI is what Nylas will call after it's completed the authentication. So you want to be able to return to your application after the authentication is complete. So we're actually using the Vercel URI that I've showed you earlier. So this is going to be the URL for where the Vercel application is actually hosted. And we'll take a look at this in a second, but this is actually the Nylas callback, and we'll take a look at where this is, the backend portion of the hosted authentication. And what we're doing afterwards is we're just redirecting the browser to api.nylas.com/OAuth/authorize. And we're passing in the client ID, the redirect URI, and as well the email that we want to authenticate. We've also included some information such as scopes. So over here, we've included the actual scopes as calendar. So we want to be able to get the calendar information.
Mhm.
And as well, we're expecting to get a response as a code. So this code is what we're going to use to get the user's access token.
Perfect.
So on the front end, when it comes to setting up the hosted authentication, we grab a few pieces of information and we pass that off to Nylas to say, hey, Nylas, can you complete the authentication for us and send the user back to our application?
That's pretty useful. I mean, you don't need to deal with authentication. Just let Nylas do it for you.
Yeah. A few things to point out here, and I know we've covered this in previous videos, is even when you're setting up any type of authentication, hosted authentication, or even building out your authentication, you still need to go and set up the actual Google Cloud Platform application or the Azure application, because those are needed to be able to connect to the users of that service. So we've also covered how to set up your Google Cloud Platform, how to set up your Azure Cloud Platform in previous videos. So if you can take a look at youtube.com/Nylas, we have videos and as well blogs on how to set up your Google and your Azure application. So now that we've talked about authenticating the user, let's go ahead and take a look at what the callback includes. So the two portions of the front end are one, setting up your hosted authentication, and the other is grabbing the information from Supabase and passing that into the calendar UI. So let's take a look at what the back end does so we can see the full complete cycle of setting up authentication and grabbing events from Nylas for the different users. So this is all a part of the same repo, and it's under pages/API/Nylas.callback. So all the API endpoints are going to be in this folder, the API folder, and this is where the Nylas callback lives. And again, we're doing a few things here. We're bringing in Supabase so we can store events to it. And we're grabbing in any credentials we've added. So we've added the client ID, the Nylas client ID, and as well the Nylas client secret. So this will allow you to access your application and grab certain information for your user. So what happens is as soon as the authentication completes from Nylas, it's going to call this handler and it's going to pass in information in the rec. So in the request. And here's where we're going to get the code that we talked about earlier, where you can actually grab the code for the user and get their access token.
That's perfect.
So down here on line 25, we're making a fetch call. Let me display the full screen.
Mm-hmm.
We're making a fetch call and we're passing in the client ID, so the Nylas client ID, the Nylas client secret, and as well the code that Nylas passed to us. So using this information, we're going to get the user's access token.
So that's going to be generated for each user that logs in or that passes it.
So every user that connects their account, they're going to go through this flow. Nylas is going to pass us the code, and we're going to use that code to grab their access token.
Okay, perfect.
And then using that access token, we're going to fetch all their different calendars. So that's what we do next. So let's grab all the users' different calendars. And instead of taking events from every single calendar, we're just going to select one calendar. So depending on the provider, there are a few ways to do that. Either the calendar's name equals the actual email of the user, or in Outlook's case, or Microsoft, the name is going to equal calendar. So it's actually a string, a static string for all of the different users.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a few ways of going about doing this. For now, I'm just selecting one calendar and grabbing the events for one calendar. You could also display a different UI to the user for the user to go ahead and select which calendars they want to sync events across.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but you can have multiple calendars, but there's one that is kind of like the primary. Yeah,
exactly. So this is the idea behind this is to grab your primary calendar and to sync up all the events in your primary calendars. So after we've selected one calendar, we're going to go ahead and down here, we're going to grab all the events for that calendar. So we pass in the calendar ID, and as well, we're passing a parameter starts after. So with starts after, you're grabbing all events that starts after a certain period in time. And in our case, we're looking for events in the future. So every event that starts after now. So once we get this information, we're going to map it all and store it in Supabase. So that's what I showed you towards the end of the demo, where you can see all the different events. Anything you're curious about, Blog, or anything you're interested in talking about more?
No, I guess probably the interaction with Supabase, because I have never used Supabase before.
Yeah, so we can take a quick look at Supabase, and how it's set up is what we're doing is we're creating 4 different properties. As you can see here, it's going to be an event ID, title, start, and end. And once we create that object, we're going to add it in an array, and we're going to insert the array inside a table in Supabase.
Okay, I see.
So we can take a look at Supabase right here. So inside Supabase, we have all the different events, and you can go ahead and take a look at what the table, what's represented on the table. So we have the name of the table, and as well, we have all the different columns that we want.
I see.
So all these properties need to match up when we're adding to Supabase. So we're just adding items into these different properties, and if we pass an array, we can add multiple rows of data to Supabase. Yeah, it's a very streamlined database. I definitely recommend to check it out, and they actually have a launch week going on. Feel free to take a look at supabase.com/launch week. They're launching quite a few features this week.
That's nice.
One thing I wanted to show is the demo included quite a few integrations. So we had Vercel, so we're using Vercel to deploy our front end and back end. And we have GCP, where we set up a GCP project, a Google Cloud Platform project, so that we can authenticate users of Google or users of Gmail, for example. And as well, we have Azure. So Azure is where we can connect users of Microsoft, such as Outlook. And as well, we use Supabase, which we just saw, to store all the different event info. And there are a few ways of going about and doing this, but for now, I've just decided to, hey, let's take a look at what Supabase can do. Let's try it out, add it to our application, just start storing events and seeing how they show up on the front end. And as well, we've used Nylas, and we've talked about using Nylas in the past for grabbing calendar events, and now we're syncing different calendar events for one user across their Google Calendar and as well their Outlook calendar.
That's awesome. I really like it. Was a pretty cool demo.
Yeah, a lot of moving pieces, but they were quite seamless to work together. And I know a few videos in the past have covered it. So I would say within a half an hour, you could have a working demo of being able to sync multiple calendars across different providers, and to be able to show users a rich experience of, hey, these are all your events. How can you show your availability, or how can you select multiple events?
Yeah, that's important.
And it's very useful in many use cases where you want to be able to bring in data and show to the user so that you can help them make a better decision when they're using your product, or even when they're syncing with other team members in your product.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, I love that you grab different technologies, different providers, and just mix them together in one useful application. That's awesome.
Yeah. I guess the other thing is, feel free to follow us on Twitter. We have a lot going on Twitter, content coming out every week. We're coming towards holidays, so I think next week is going to be an exciting week as well to kind of wrap up. People are wrapping up gifts. We'll be wrapping up some content for you. But yeah, this was great. Anything else, Blog, you want to talk about?
No, I think you mentioned everything. I think all links. Well, I'll just let people know that you're feel free to let us know what you think of the show. What do you want to see? If you want to be a guest in the show, or how much you like Nylas, what you do with Nylas, just let us know. We're always happy to hear from you.
Yeah, feel free to hit the like button, subscribe. We'd love to hear from you in terms of what you're building with Nylas and what you're looking to build with Nylas as well.
Yep. So thank you so much, Ram. It was pretty interesting. So enjoy your weekend.
You
What is-
too. See you, Blag.
All right. Bye. Take care.